Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
So let's start out from what we learned from the brain yesterday and what we've been seeing, all these big stories, is Claudia's going to lead us in a little time of quieting ourselves, going into some gratitude. And essentially what we're doing is assuring that we have the best chance possible that our relational circuits are up and running for the rest of the time, for the rest of the morning. Okay?
All right. So let's all take a deep breath.
Oh, thank you.
And another one. And Lord, you are our Prince of Peace. You are a good Father. You are a good shepherd that leads us through waters of rest. We ask that you share your peace with us this morning. If we have any worries or pain, we want to leave it in your hands, like if you have a hands like a basket. And we ask you that you hold on in everything that we are carrying. And we ask you now that, Holy Spirit, you bring a memory. You pick a memory for us this morning about a blessing that you have given us since we got here. Help us to see your face through that memory. Maybe it was a friend or was just a surprise. We thank you that you shine your face on us 24 hours, like that little kid with a mom. You see us and you shine, and we melt our hearts because your love is so big. We thank you that you are here with us this morning. And we hand the microphone to you so you will teach any one of us anything that you want us to take away. And we ask in a powerful name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
All right, Ken.
So I'm curious if you got a chance to do your gratitude exercise this morning. And if you did, in the quieting, is there any questions as well that have come up as you've tried it? Maybe you even forgot to do it, but you still have some questions. Anything come up? And also your relational circuits. Oh yeah, we have one over here. Yes. For some people, they have a hard time actually entering into visual memories. They can't do that. I've actually had trained a church where the pastor couldn't go in and relive a memory. And this is one of the cases too where we are hoping people like this man, and maybe you and others that have this situation where you start trying things, seeking Jesus and saying, okay, for a person in this situation, our focus mainly is what's the 99% of the people that can, how does this help? But, we get asked questions about autism, on being people on the spectrum, ADHD, how do we help that? And our desire actually is to start cohorts with people in specific areas where we need to learn some new and creative methods that also allow people to get the same benefit that we would get by going into a memory or calming ourselves down, etc. And so these are the kinds of things we hope we can get cohorts up and running to actually, we call them a study group, to focus on how do we actually implement this in some special cases, okay? And so I appreciate you bringing that up, because that's exactly what we're trying to form as we do this, as we catch the big net with most of us, but we also don't want to leave anyone behind. So I don't have any real answers, but we're hoping that this cohort will come from that. Yeah.
One thing that, when there are people visually impaired and you say, okay, how do you see the face, the joy? First, we know that the most intelligent person in the room is Jesus. So we ask him about everything. No, we know that our own understanding, running alone, will always make mistakes. But the other thing is that we are seeing that God, design us with the brain that first need to walk for a nonverbal path before it goes to words. So if you don't have the visual, you have maybe a tone. Who is a tone that bring you peace? Where did you see
a song
when you felt
peace
for a gift that somebody maybe sing a song to you, or you pick in the voice that make you feel that you were seen or you were welcomed.
And it's important to say that there will be times in our lives when we cannot go into a gratitude memory and feel it in our bodies and experience Jesus' presence in it, especially when we're going through great suffering. So all of us will be in that state sometimes where I just can't get into a gratitude memory. It's like something shut off in me. In these cases, it's very important that we, first of all, treat ourselves with a lot of grace, because that usually happens when something's hard is going on in our lives. Give ourselves grace, and then bring our people together, and also realize sometimes we need other people physically sitting in front of us. So we rebuilt the brain, but we built it in a different orientation, so we're fair to other people who couldn't see the levels as much, right? This is the level 1, 2, 3, 4. Sometimes we actually need people, friends. We can't quite sense Jesus with us in this yet, but if we have a friend who's sitting here and letting us know we're not alone, and that person is connected to Jesus and they're level 4, then it's flowing through them into us, same as here. We always like Jesus sitting here. Sometimes we just can't manage it because of suffering, but our best friend, our spouse, our kid, right? They can sit in and tell us that they're with us and that this is who we are, and that will oftentimes bring us back online, okay? We're going to talk about that a little bit now. What we're going to talk about today has to do a little bit with how we help people get their relational circuits on, but that's not all it does. It's also a way that we help the people around us in distress. It says here, there's really 2 titles to this message. There's helping others in distress. How do we actually help them? And then building emotional resilience. How do we do it in a way that in the future they've built resilience and they're actually a little bit stronger next time in this emotion, okay? So have you ever had someone come to you in distress, suffering with some big emotions, and you didn't quite know how to help them? You didn't know what to say, you didn't know what to do.
And just to do a review, we are talking about here. When we are in distress.
We'll go
there.
But this happens in our families, it happens in our churches. If you're pastors and missionaries, you're actually signing up for more of this, right? People coming to you with big stuff happening, and a lot of times as pastors, as missionaries, we get this deer in the headlights, and I don't know what to do here, right? It's a little bit like if your house was on the edge of the bush, and some nights, afternoon, someone knocks on your door, and they're like, parched. They could barely talk because their Jeep broke down in the middle of the bush and they've been walking for 6 hours to get out. They didn't have any water. They could barely, and they walk up to your door and go, help me, please. And you invite them in and you go into your cupboard and you give them some salty potato chips or something to eat. Right? Because you thought that's what they needed, but that's not what they needed. Really what they needed is a refreshing glass of water. And often when people are in big emotions, our hearts are good, we want to help them, but we give them salty potato chips instead of refreshing water. Okay? And so, but it doesn't stop there. It doesn't just refresh them. It also is building, this practice we're going to learn today, it's going to build nerve bundles from the emotions that you're tuning to, we're going to show you what this is, to their other parts of their brain that actually builds emotional resilience, emotional regulation, so that if you do this practice several times with someone, they have a resilience and an emotion that they did not have before. And when they do it to you, and so we're actually growing nerve bundles as we do this well with each other, but it's also the way God's kingdom works. It's the way his family works. So this is a big hitter, okay? How do we raise the window of tolerance in specific emotions? Like I can only handle this much right now. Next year I can handle this much, and the year after it I can handle this much of this emotion? Because we look at Jesus had a high tolerance for a lot of emotions. He had a lot of distress coming at him and all sorts of different emotions. He stayed himself and he stayed relational. That's what it looks like to have resilience. Okay? So how do we be like Jesus? How he modeled it for us. Okay? And so we call this practice VCR. We're going to have to come up with a new acrostic because VCRs don't really exist anymore. The young kids are like, what's this VCR thing? I've never heard of this. The rest of us have memories of having to rewind before we can watch a movie. But it stands for Validate, Comfort, and Repattern for Resilience. It's a new practice. It was developed by Jim Wilder and our other friend Chris Corsi. It retrains our brain how to return to joy from negative emotions. It also helps our relational circuits come back on in big emotions when they've gone off. Okay? And so it stands for a little bit of explanation. Okay, now my clicker's having an attitude. Actually, last time I pushed it down here. Maybe it works here. Yeah, maybe keep it on the stand. This is an antenna. So VCR is really it's a formula. It's V plus C equals R. So the R is resilience, building resilience. We want to build resilience. The way we build resilience is by V and C. Okay? V is validate, C is console. Okay? Let's take a look at this. You come to me in big emotions. Literally what our brain is looking for, the first thing it's looking for is validation. Validation says when you come to me in some suffering and some big emotions and some distress, right? I see how big the problem is and I see the emotions you're feeling and I repeat them out loud to you so that in a sense you know I get you. Guess what level of the brain this is? Am I alone in this? Validate is coming to this part of the brain. When we are in distress, our brain is spinning right here and asking the question, am I all alone in this? Does anybody care? Does anybody understand me or get me? And so validation is very much injecting energy into this part and letting them know, that is hard. Your boss said that to you yesterday? Oh man, I can't believe he said that. That hurts. Boom, we just energized our level 3. Okay? And so we can use a hypothetical situation where my wife has to drive into the big city to go to a training. I'm home, let's say, working, and I'm planning to make dinner for her when she gets home. She gets home about 5 in the afternoon, so I'm making dinner, looking for her. Dinner's ready, it's 5 o'clock, she's still not there. So I kind of get stuff ready, it's 5:15, still not there. 5:30, she still hasn't showed up. So I get my phone and call her, and it goes straight to voicemail. Now I'm going, I wonder what happened. 5:45, 6, try call again, straight to voicemail. Finally, 6:30, Claudia pulls up in the car. She walks up to the house, and I can tell there's stress on her face. okay? This is a good example. So Claudia's in some distress. I don't know what it is. I open the door, I say, what happened, Claudia? And Claudia says, I was driving home. I drove your car today. I'm not used to your car. I'm driving home, and all of a sudden your car started feeling wobbly and weird. So I pulled over, and I looked, and I had a flat tire. And cars are like whizzing by. It's rush hour traffic. And then I realized I don't know how to change a flat tire in your car. I don't know how to put the spare tire on. I don't know where the jack is. I don't know things. And cars are whizzing by. And I'm sitting there, so I go to call you, and my phone is dead, and I don't have a charger because this is not my car. And I didn't know what to do. He said, so I sat there, and finally someone pulled off and pulled in front of me and came back, and they knew how to do it. They knew where the jack was. They helped me put a spare tire on it, and I'm here now, but man, I just feel stressed. So that's a pretty mild example. It's hypothetical. Didn't really happen, right? And so Claudia
Put in my face.
walks up to me. I say, what happened? And she explains this to me. So an example of a good validation here is, oh man, that's scary and stressful, Clau, to get a rush hour traffic flat and not know how to fix it, and on top of it all, to not have a telephone so you couldn't get help. Oh man, that is stressful. You get it? How long did it take me to do that? Not even that, probably 10 seconds. Doesn't take long to validate, right? But even though it's easy and it doesn't take long, we often do it incorrectly, right? So I'll give you a couple examples of doing it incorrectly. Claudia comes home, tells me about the story of the flat. She's stressed. And I go, oh, Claudia, the jack is in the back right of the counter. There's two little tabs. You push those tabs and pull the panel out, and there's the jack. You need to unscrew the jack. And I give her a 15-minute lecture on how to fix a flat in my car. Why is that not a good validation? Anybody? It's a fix. I jumped over to the left brain. Her brain's swimming here. Am I all alone? And I jump over to the left brain and give her a fix. But she can't even accept a fix right now. She is looking for one thing, and her brain is looking for one thing and one thing only. Am I alone? Does he care? Right?
And when he doesn't care,
She goes to sleep.
Close.
Level 4 goes to sleep.
I close who I am, and I'm upstairs.
She's probably mad at me right now.
I'm not gonna say it.
Okay,
but
here's
I
another
will
one.
think I'm stupid. I will think my own understanding will start to come up with a lot of explanations of what happened. Oh, if I would have done it different, or maybe I'm not.
So here's another example, okay? Finally, Claudia gets home, 6:30. She walks up to the door. She's stressed. She tells me what happened on the freeway in the car and everything. And I said, well, Claudia, it's not a big deal. Don't be sad. Don't be stressed. It's just a flat tire. What's wrong with that? Not only did I not validate, it's actually an anti-validation. I basically say, Claudia, your emotions are invalid. I reject your emotions. And yet we do that all the time. Don't cry. Don't be angry. I was told that as a kid sometimes. Don't come in here angry. You need to go back until you can come in with a smile on your face, right? That's essentially teaching a child that some emotions are invalid. The problem is Jesus created these emotions. We have actually wiring. We have circuitry in our brain for these big emotions. They were designed into us. They're not a mistake. They're not bad, right? They need to be validated. Validation lets a person know that they're seen, they're heard, they're understood, and that we care. Okay? Pretty simple. Validation. That's the first thing a person needs, no matter what the problem is. Sometimes you don't even know what the emotions are. You can just go, oh. That's a validation. Just that, let her level 3 know, oh, he gets me. He knows what's going on inside. He cares. Okay? But we don't stop there. We've just energized our level 3. Now our level 4 needs some help. Okay? The consolation is targeting our level 4. Again, consolation is done after validation. If you do a consolation first, it doesn't feel good because their level 3 wasn't brought up or validated. So we always validate first. And consolation then shows the person that there's still some life left in here, but still this is really hard. So in a sense, what we say is that it's finding something to appreciate in spite of what happened and amplifying a little bit of that appreciation while still maintaining the validation. Okay? So let's try it. Claudia finally gets home. She's stressed. She tells me the story. I go, oh, that's so stressful. In rush hour traffic and having no phone. Oh, it's a good validation. Then the consolation is, but I'm so thankful for that person who pulled over and helped you. And I am so thankful you're home safe and sound after that stressful thing. Notice I found a few little bit of things to appreciate in spite of it that didn't minimize it. It's not a minimizing thing. It's not, let's be happy instead. It's more like, oh, that is stressful, but I'm so thankful for the help you got from that person, right?
And he didn't say, and remember that everything works for the good.
That was my example of a bad one. Let me do my example. You just took my example away from me. Because I have some bad consolations too, and that's one of them. Claudia, and I quote the Bible to her. Like Claudia just said. So that verse is true, but it's not the time for that verse. Just because something's true doesn't mean that's the thing we need to say in that moment. Bible's great, but man, can the Bible be misused and hurt people, right? She doesn't need to know what the Bible says. She needs to know, oh man, I'm so thankful you're home, safe and sound, okay? And so, repatterning is then what happens when I validate and when I console. We start repatterning a person's brain in a way that builds more resilience to big emotions. Is there anyone here who doesn't want to have more resilience to big negative feeling emotions? To be able to handle anger better and stay yourself? Shame, fear, disgust, despair. Don't you want to be able to handle life better when those emotions get thrown at you and you feel them? To stay yourself and know who you are? Question?
Yes. Who are you repatterning for?
Pardon?
Who are you repatterning for?
Well, the repatterning is you're repatterning the way your brain handles big emotions. For her.
For me.
Mainly for her. So mainly when I'm in big emotions, I need Claudia to VCR me. When she's stuck in a problem, she needs me to validate her. But actually the act of validating and consoling a person also does some building in my brain as well. Really, this is a multiple hitter. It gets lots of good things. The validation makes you instantly feel better. The consolation is building future strength. And it happens when I do it to her, but also receive some for myself. And then when she does it to me, it builds my resilience, but she also gets some herself. So this is a really, really important. Essentially, VCR is the way God's family works. We are a people, when we're suffering, that we validate each other's suffering. We see what's going on. Do you remember from the Relational Circuits, the very first checklist for simple enemy mode is, I don't really care what's going on in you. I'm just trying to make this thing stop. That means these two have gone down. So I can't validate Claudia if my relational circuits are off because I need a functioning level 3 in order to validate her level 3. So we really have a synchronization of Claudia's level 3 and my level 3, then a synchronization of her level 4 and my level 4. We bring each other back online. But even if your relational circuits are on, a VCR still helps. It just strengthens these. It's like a muscle. These can just get stronger. They can handle more weight. That make sense?
And that's something that we didn't do well with our daughter that had an anger, like the child was very explosive and she was here in anger. And I never sit down to say, hey, Megan, I get you are upset because your sister took away your toy or whatever. And instead of that, I was trying to
modify her behavior.
To stop and to modify her behavior. And so then this not happen, but remember that everything starts here with someone. God designed us to be personal to the person who most shine our face to us and give us peace. So this is the person that is going to have the loudest voice for me. It will be Jesus if I do gratitude and I connected with Jesus through his face and he give me peace and he's good, so then I can hear him. All right?
Yep. And so, yeah,
A
question.
What can you do when somebody consistently, persistently, totally rejects any efforts at validation and consolation? And I'm talking about this happening not just once or twice, but consistently over the years, because that person has such a low self-worth.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Good question. So, if you remember yesterday on the Relational Circuits worksheet, after we did the restoration steps at the bottom, it said, note, the inability to restore your relational circuits is a sign that some healing is needed. And so really, if we're unable to receive, it's like an inability to receive that someone actually cares what's going on inside of me, that's because at some point in life, probably as a very young child, they weren't attuned to. They weren't validated, they were rejected, they were ignored. So this gets unvalidated whether I reject your emotions and get mad at you for your emotions, or whether I just ignore you. I'm just too busy. You're just a botherant, right? And so a lot of times what that means, it doesn't hurt them, and also a VCR is real quick. You can still go, oh man, that's hurt, but I thank you for sharing it with me. That's a V and a C, and it took me 5 seconds. That's not going to hurt them. It may not work, but it also may work. You may have just activated a few neurons here and here. You see no validation, but you do it the day later, you do it again. A couple days later, you do it again. After about 20 times, you might have started awakening some things in this person's life that haven't been awakened. At the same time, there's some healing that's probably necessary. Everything we do, from the quieting to the gratitude, the relational circuits, and this VCR, is going to awaken things, and you're going to have trauma start to percolate up because your brain's getting stronger as you sit in gratitude and learn to calm yourselves down and become aware. Your brain actually goes, ooh, Michael's getting stronger. He's actually ready to handle this trauma that he wasn't ready for yet. Percolate. Holy Spirit here as well. You know, Jesus is sitting here, and Jesus goes, yep, now it's time. You'll have some past injuries, hurtful things that maybe you minimized. Oh, I'm over that. Yeah, that hurt, but that was no big deal. And as you start to do this, it starts to hit you, and you start seeing it more from Jesus' eyes. And according to Jesus, that was a big deal. And he will invite you into some healing. So a lot of this stuff will make you healthier and stronger, and then trauma will start percolating, and you'll have all sorts of problems in your churches, and you'll say, Michel and Claudia Hendricks made our church a lot more confusing and chaotic. But that chaos is a good chaos because it's a chaos that's leading to healing. Do we really want calm and quiet because people have swallowed their trauma and their pain? That's not the kind of peace we want. We don't want a different kind of peace that has a better foundation. So this will happen in your own lives. This happened in my life. I started having stuff percolating up, and I'm like, oh my word, right? But after doing it for 7 years or so, I just feel like I've cleaned up so many stuff in my soul, in my brain, in my life with Jesus' help. I just feel like I'm a cleaner person inside.
And we repair more who God says who we are.
Our identities become more solid. Is another way to say that.
And remember that joy and rest is capacity.
So you're building your capacity as you do that.
And when we are not running out of joy and rest, we're running out of fear. And we're trying to stop everything that is painful, everything that will make me feel rejected, everything that will make me feel, that you're angry at me. But joy and rest help us to stand with Jesus and who we are and be able to go through hard things and still stay. Like like Jesus was on the cross and he was saying, oh, Mom, you will go to John's house. John, you will take care of my mom.
He still stayed himself.
God, they don't know what they're doing. Please, Father, forgive them. Oh, you next to me. Yeah. So
Right.
he was very whole, even in the midst of big suffering.
We do a lot of training of elder teams, lead teams, a lot of mission agencies and mission teams. And they say the number one thing that blows up a mission team is not the difficulty of the mission and the people they're ministering, it's the team relationships. Kaboom. By far. And, doing this together as a team, everything that we've been teaching you in the last day or two, and especially being a team where we very intentionally validate each other's emotions and find something to appreciate in spite of it. And you can't fake the validation. You can't be wooden in it, right? Like if I said to Claudia, oh, Claudia, that's so stressful getting a flat. I'm sorry that happened to you. She's not going to believe it because my face is not agreeing with what my words are saying. On the other hand, if she comes up, I can just go, oh. I didn't say any words, but she knows, oh, he gets me. He feels my pain. He doesn't know exactly even what my pain is. You don't need to know what the pain is exactly. It's more like, am I alone in it? Not does he understand it really, but am I alone in it? Or do they care? Your kids get home from school. Something's gone wrong. Our first thing is, oh, that's hard. I'm sorry. Well, I'm really thankful. Here's the thing. Sometimes a consolation, like in this example, there was a little appreciation sprinkled in there by someone helping her with a flat tire, and then also that I'm glad she's home, right? There is a consolation. There are times when things are so dark that they share with you, I can't find anything to appreciate there. But in that case, the appreciation that always works is to say, oh, that is really hard, but I'm so thankful that you shared it with me. You can always say that because that is actually something to appreciate. They're suffering something very deep and dark, and it's very good that they're sharing it. They're not alone.
Yeah, okay? And remember that this is...
Okay, I'll tell you. So, you finish and then we'll...
It's just a quick question, a quick adding, that this is nonverbal. So if what you are sharing is so big that I cannot grasp how heavy it is, here what we can do is just be honest and say, oh, I cannot imagine how big is your pain. It is so big that I cannot even get it, but I'm glad that you share with me.
Yeah. Question?
What happens if you're the one trying to provide the VCR, but you are the subject of the problem?
Yep.
Welcome to marriage.
Our biggest pains in marriage are when we hurt each other. And yet, we can always say to a spouse, oh, I'm sorry, that was really painful, and it's hard to know that I was probably the cause of that pain. But at the same time, I'm thankful that you shared that with me so that I want to know when I caused you pain, because sometimes I don't realize it. So you can VCR someone you've hurt. That's actually kind of the high end of VCRing, is when we're the ones who caused the pain, and yet we're humble and say, oh, that really hurts to be treated that way, Claudia, and the fact that I'm the one that did it, oh, I can't believe it.
We have adult children, and we had to repair a lot when we learned this.
We did not do this well with our kids.
And so say, hey, I'm sorry that when you were so upset, instead of sitting with you in your anger, even if it was justified or not, then you will talk about the wrong or the right later. But at the moment that she was angry, she needed for me to say, oh, there must be something really big bothering you, and I can see it. And I'm glad we're together. So let's take a deep breath. And so we did. We started to saying, hey, God showed me this. God showed me that I didn't do this right, and I ask for your forgiveness. If I would have another chance, this is what I would have done. And we have done a lot of repair.
We do a lot of repair here. It's not permanent. Question over here.
Yeah, I'm reminded of Absalom, who might have been particularly good at VCRing. And I'm reminded of people that might be very good at VCRing for negative purposes. And so when you're trying to work with people, they're already VCR'd a certain way in a particular direction, and then it almost feels like you're combating and trying to almost follow the same kind of principles, but in a sincere way when you can see something insincerely being used, similarly to how Absalom did it, you know what I mean? So how do you deal with that when you see an active process of that occurring for negative purposes?
That's called intelligent enemy mode. Here's the difference between the simple enemy mode. We lose our levels 3 and 4 completely. They're down, right? Basically, our left brain's just trying to do without these important parts of our brain by telling you to go away, or all the things on the checklist for simple. Intelligent enemy mode, these are up and working. The thing that's not really working is this. It doesn't care about an attachment. It just more cares about winning and manipulating, getting what I want, right? And I'm actually using these things in order to get what I want. I'm figuring out what's going on inside of you to make you my ally and against my enemies so that we can defeat them and make our allies bigger. And so that's why we teach you the intelligent enemy mode before we do this, so that you're also aware this is a complex and nuanced thing where we, Jesus designed these circuits. He designed this so that we would know what's going on inside other people so that we treat them with kindness and compassion. But these same circuits can be used to know what's going on inside of you so I can make you lose. It's really diabolical, right?
Or to judge you and
Yeah.
make a story out of that. Can I say something very quick regarding the question, the hypothetical question that just came to mind, is that when we talk about group identity, if you create a very solid group identity with your team, and you say, for instance, what kind of team do we want to be? We want to be a team that when we sense that the temperature is going high, we'll take a pause and connect with God. And then we keep the conversation going. But we don't push any conversation if we don't have peace.
Yep.
And so then if someone is going wrong, you do a healthy correction and say, hey, remember, we are people that we take a pause when the conversations go intense and we seek Jesus' peace to continue.
Yeah, and they're learning
Yeah.
from you. If you're treating them in a way that aligns really well with God's family, meaning when things go sideways, we validate and we find something to appreciate. And we also are having some good group identity statements that show us how God, the group identity is mainly a way around how we treat each other. It's not about concepts or doctrine. It's mainly about how we
Or our
work
goals,
as
but
how God's
who we
family,
are in this team.
how God's family works is what this really is. And so if you have good, solidly built, when someone starts doing the sneaky stuff, you go, oh, wait a second, that's not the way our family works. If you remember, we've been saying this group identity to each other. That's not the way we are. That's not who we are. Instead, this is who we are. But you need to do that work before the problems come out, because then it's almost kind of too late. So I'm hoping you work this in from the beginning before you actually need it. And then when it happens, you can handle it. You have some tools that you wouldn't have normally.
And we always believe that Jesus is the most intelligent, so he will help you to come up with your group identity.
Right. This is up, he's sitting here. You have a wisdom. I'll say things that are utterly brilliant, and later I'll go, I'm not that smart. I'm pretty sure Jesus was sitting here and giving me his mind because I'm not that wise, right?
I work with for home for kids, not with the kids, but with their staff, training their staff on this. And the kids, come from broken homes or no parents, but they are just coming up with who are they and who God created them to be. And they are building joy with each other. They are building rest. They are trying to validate each other, to express their emotions. I'm angry, so then you can come and they are doing this beautifully. They even create in one home in Tampico, Mexico, they created a song of who they are. And they sing it every single day to remember who they are.
There was even one child there that said, I'm sad because my brother is getting bullied in his school. He goes, but in our school, we don't bully because that's not who we are. So that's part of the group identity, right? We have a question over here. Here's the thing is, what we want is, just because we validate and console first, that doesn't mean that's the only thing we ever do. But if we give them some truth and their level 3 and 4 are not working, it's not going to work. Their brains aren't in a way where they can actually handle the training. They're not trainable or teachable. And so the first thing we do is we validate. We're not validating behavior. You can have your young daughter, your young daughter's crying because her brother who's a year older hit her on the head with her Barbie, right? Maybe you send them to their rooms to calm down, then you go into each and you deal with it. And you can go into your son and say, I know it's frustrating when your sister used your dump truck and you didn't get it. She didn't ask your permission to go into your room and get your toy. I know that's frustrating. And I'm glad we're talking about it now. These are the kinds of things that you and I talk about. And this is really good that we're talking. Right? Okay, I brought up his 3 and his 4. Then I said, but we don't, when we're frustrated, it's okay to be angry, but it's not okay to be mean. And it's never okay to hit your sister on the head with the Barbie. So then I'm giving him some group identity statement. But I don't start with it. That's what our error was. This would be happening, and I'd say, Elias, we do not hit your daughter with your Barbie. But his 3 and 4 were off because she had taken his dump truck or whatever, toy, things with kids. I'm not validating the behavior, but I'm in their emotional environment. I'm letting them know I'm with you. I'm glad we're together in this. And this is who we are. Then I need to go tell my daughter. That's really frustrating and sad and hurts when your brother hits you with your own toy and everything. But I'm glad we're talking about it. These are good conversations you and I have, so I'm glad we're talking about it, but that's really frustrating. And just so you know, when you use his toys, you don't just go into his room, you need to ask him permission. That's respecting. You would want him to ask you permission, so ask him permission. But that comes later, when their brains are up, okay?
And you may need to wait until there is a peaceful moment.
Sometimes it's a day later.
To talk about the behavior. So here we are just calming down the emotion, but the behavior, it will need to bring them to who we are. This is not who we are. This is not what we do. But you will need a moment of quiet to talk about that.
I do a lot of coaching of pastors, one-on-one. And I taught a pastor of a big church in Denver this VCR. And then I said, okay, your homework until we meet in 2 weeks again is to VCR everyone you can and come back and tell me stories. 2 weeks later, we get back online and we're talking. And I said, well, tell me any VCR opportunities. He goes, oh, I can't wait to tell you this. He said, I have to go into the doctor and get blood taken every week for the next month for a thing they're doing. So I went and I'm sitting there and she pokes my arm. I'm waiting for it. It takes a while. It takes like 5 minutes. And the nurse, as she's doing it, is just complaining out loud. She said, I am just so frustrated with my teenage son. His alarm goes off in the morning, and it just keeps going off, and he doesn't even wake up. And I go and I shake him, and he doesn't get out of bed, and then he complains at me, and then we're in a fight, and I have breakfast ready for him, but then it's cold, and finally when I drag him out, he's no time to eat breakfast. We have to run in the car. I also have to take our middle schooler to the middle school and him to the high school, and then I have to go to work. He's making me late for work. I'm just like so frustrated with this kid and his attitude. She's just like saying this to him. Now, he probably should have VCR'd her. But instead, you can do both, but instead what he said, he said, I just learned a really helpful tool that might be helpful for you. Are you up? It's a good thing that he asked her. And she goes, I'll listen to anything. I am so at the end of myself, I'll listen to anything. So he explained the VCR to her. Went away. A week later, he had to go get his blood tested. He goes in, sits down. It's a different nurse. So she's put the thing in. He's waiting. So he's just sitting there. And then he looks across the office. And the other nurse that he talked to before was on the other end. And she saw him and he saw her. Their eyes met. And she ran straight across the office, straight to him. She walked up to him and said, you have revolutionized my relationship with my son. Where did you learn this practice? And he said, tell me more. She says, well, the next morning, alarm goes off. My teenager, of course, doesn't get out of bed. Instead of fighting with him, I sat down on his bed and I said, it is frustrating to have to get up early in the morning when your body wants 3 more hours of sleep, isn't it? That is frustrating. And the teenage boy went like, who kidnapped my mother and replaced him with this person, right? And then she says, but I am very thankful that we get to drive to school together. I love our time together. let you and I get some alone time after we drop the middle schoolers off. And it always makes my day happy when I get some time with you before I go into work. Next morning, same thing. Next morning, same thing. And after a while, she said, we have a new relationship, okay? It's because she'd been jumping over into her left brain when his brain is off, he doesn't want to get up, not validating any emotion and not consoling, and it was a life, family-changing event, okay? So that'll be your homework with this, is go and do this as much as you can. Question. Could everyone hear, or do you want me to repeat? Repeat? He said that he feels other people's emotions very deeply. And he said, so when they're sharing emotions with me, what can I do to keep myself kind of together and calm, because I can sometimes get all stuck in their emotions, right? So what this means is that you still need to VCR the person, but you need to be VCR'd yourself, that you feel people's emotions so deeply and go, oh man, that can be hard to go into another person's emotions a lot. That's good though. I'm very thankful that you feel others' emotions, because that's the way God is with us. He feels our stuff, he's with us. But man, that can be hard too. It can be a weight to carry. I just VCR'd you, by the way. And if I did this correctly, I just grew some nerve bundles, right? From your emotion center, from like a fear center or sadness center or whatever it is, into your level 3, which in the future will help you stay relationally connected better. You'll have more capacity in that emotion. So VCR is not something we just do individual to individual. It's something we need to do as a community. We VCR each other. Our churches VCR. Bring this language. You can use different words if you want. We VCR each other. It's important to see that VCR is also an example of us acting like children of God. So do we want to act like children of God whether it works or not? Yes. Do we want to act like God whether it takes 20 times before we see some help or 2 times? Yes. Because this is actually, essentially when you're VCRing someone, you're bringing heaven to earth. Because this is the way heaven works. This is the way God's family works. Okay? Another thing is a lot of times we validate really well, but we don't do the next step of the consolation. The consolation is actually harder. And so letting them know, I really do appreciate, though, the times you share these frustrating things with me. I'm really glad that we're together in the good times, and we're also together in the hard times. So adding that little, that's where more the growth for the future strength is done. So make sure you hit that consolation as well. Most of us naturally validate easier, but consolation, we're going, okay, what do I say here? And again, consolation, you can always say, I'm so appreciate you sharing this with me, right?
And
I think we've hit our time limit. Is that true?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, we have 2 minutes.
2 minutes. I want to say that this is what the Bible says, that we need to cry with those who cry.
Mm-hmm. And
we
rejoice
need
with
to
those who
be
rejoice.
happy with those who are happy. And that's what Jesus did with Martha. When she was upset at him, she was throwing a fit at him because he was late. And she is in the middle of grief. And Jesus did not say, oh, I'm going to get your brother back in a couple hours.
Don't cry. I'm going to do something.
No, he sat down with her, and I don't know if he hugged her, but he was crying. And the way that the word crying there is crying. He was expressively crying with her and took a time to grieve with her.
Yeah.
And then he talked.
Yeah.
So the other thing is that we want to embrace an Emmanuel lifestyle where we feel God's presence with us, when we feel God's peace with us, when we feel God's face with us. And when we stop doing that, we stop. And if your friend is too overwhelming, you say, okay, I need a break. Or you go to the bathroom and you start breathing and say, Jesus, give me the capacity to keep going. But we want to be aware of Jesus' presence giving us capacity to share. And I think we have 10 seconds.
I just wanted to say a word that comes to mind when you're saying console. The word that comes to me basically is empathy, to empathize, to be able to get into their situation and say, I really feel this with you. Is that
That's the
That's-
validation.
Yeah.
That's the validation.
That's the validation.
The console is finding something to appreciate in spite of the bad thing that's happening.
Okay. Thanks.
So we need to do both. The validation or the empathy brings up our level 3, but then the consolation actually trains our level 4. Okay? Oh, I'm so thankful you shared that with me. And it doesn't even need to be big emotions. It can be small emotions, right? Maybe your son studied all night because he wanted to get that A on the math test, and he comes home sad, and he goes, "What happened? I got a B+." Well, most of us think, so, well, that's sad, but it's pretty small sadness. B+ is not that bad. And we just missed an opportunity. Instead, we should go, "Oh, that is so frustrating to study for that A and instead just to fall short a little bit, B+." But I'm thankful that you shared that with me. I'm glad you share your A's with me. I'm glad you share your B+s with me. I'm glad you share your D's with me. I don't know if you get letter grades in Australia or not. Good. And so that's a good, I've just built some more capacity in him over a little thing. We do this with big things, we do it with little things, and everything in between. Okay?
All
I
right.
think we have
we're
our tea time.
ready for a break.